Yeah, hello, officer. I know we're here for about a possession order, but I want to report a crime. Chris Naylor and John Cotton engineered an actual invasion of the country after Libya, another delightful Blairite creation. If Naylor was doing the American draw stuff in a British public body, while, of course, pumping American ideology into it, the logical effect on that would be a lot of dead British people. And obviously entryism. I forget what the case was. The historic, there was a siege of a hotel or something. The Islamist siege all those years ago. The pre 9/11 world was obviously a very different place to what we have now, and the influences, I'm afraid, get closer after the building I once stood on got turned into a pile of rubble. So we went there. Before it went down, there was a glass flooring. I forget how old I was. You have to work it out from the family, but you could see all the way to the bottom. And thinking about that occasionally does give me the chills. But it's more reading some history that does that. I mean, if you know the history of civilizations and think about those kind of terms, it's fairly obvious that we've got some serious problems on a sort of macro level. On a localised term, of course, tourism and travellers always been part of the human condition. People have always travelled across continents, and with continental air travel, of course, it's a lot easier and the world's opened up. But of course, because our constitution was so ancient, it was so easy to subvert. We've got fundamentally hostile people here who are now overtly attacking us. But the quality of our elite is so dumb. You can openly sort of attack us with corporate communications, try and forcibly remove us. And the only thing these little idiots can do is try and sort of manage the problem and make money off it, which of course is. I think that was why Blair presumably removed the laws to treason, plus at Mandelson's behest. So when Mandelson was going on about, doesn't mind about people getting filthy rich, he was presumably talking about, along with the sort of penalties that used to get one, they obviously dealt with appropriately for appropriate reasons. If you are deliberately in any kind of historical terms, already the postmodernist language encouraging an invasion, straightforward terms, what do you expect to do when power changes hands? So the good thing about jumping on now, I sit down to think about it with those guys for the CV purposes, is he, after all the work, he can still be serious? Yes, if he's a serious guy, we'll carry on with the serious people. The main problem we have in terms of Britain is the people who went along with this subversive history. So if you're severing people's roots, that's a serious matter. That is an attack on a child. And the point about children is you don't ever spoil their innocence. Childhood is a vital time for children. Keep them innocent about the world, let them enjoy their life and learn in a safe place, and certain things are for the adults to deal with. So if you're coming into a public body and behaving like that, then you're being removed. Sorry, we're not obliged to allow anyone to attack our children. The American ideology means nothing to us, much as Islam means nothing to us, frankly. So in terms of Nolan, well, you make the logical inferences regardless of the policy. So Birmingham doesn't get to avoid central government guidance. So even if central government guidance on the matter is being guided by Burnham removing the rest of them, it's totally irrelevant in terms of the total government situation, because Birmingham's head of police has already capitulated and can't talk his own court officers. So when Starmer couldn't pull on the levers of power to get it to work and went around locking up political prisoners, literate people know what time it is, so we're not playing around anymore. If we're standing around in a Tesco's car park with shopping trolleys thinking about being press ganged, then you can bet we're not playing around anymore. So if your commissioners are booking it out and not speaking to court officers, we're out and you're paying for the damages every day that remains the case. Or the British state is paying the damages for having to do this. Like most people in the police, it wasn't ever about the money. You wouldn't stay in that job if it was about the cash. There are much better ways to spend my time on energy than do that kind of work. but because of the people you have loyalty to, actual loyalty to people around you, loyalty to the country, loyalty to something above yourself, you go down the sort of career path that is in hard enforcement, because that's how you make a difference, by making sure that justice is done. If justice isn't being done, you've got to go after that with the same fierceness as you did as any other time in the past, because that's what the family's always done. We kill people. The grandfather is now on record as having torn men apart in huge blast of ordnance. You think about this in primate terms, the type of ordnance on a battleship, the huge shells that sort of exploded to the Germans, took out their gun emplacements. Your life has been a happy little German up until that point, and suddenly Doug has just taken your life away in seconds, and a huge firebolt explosion, and your bunker's in ruins as our lads stormed the coast. And that was our guys that did that, and he survived it and got the shrapnel to tell the tale. The bomb hit the ship. Apparently, the cabin boy had to get the keys off a dead guy because he was the only one small enough to crawl through the wreckage, and his psychological health wasn't really the priority at that particular moment. He was not dying to ever return to France. We had no idea how the war was going to go. So when the chips are down, you can expect that kind of family to say, well, no, I don't actually care, I'll kill you rather than surrender. The late father was a wizened old tosser who never had any energy, possibly had no food for most of his life. You think about the sort of history of the Irish and how they were treated building Birmingham, and the sort of living conditions they lived in. And it was his brain who saved him. That rap to sharpness that went after those serious criminals, could hang back and say, no, sorry, jail, and immediately make the correct inferences and make a career out of that. So I suppose, to be fair to the old guy, he did a fairly good job. If you can prove to your former law partners that you are this kind of good at handling human brains, when the voice comes through a computer screen app, that they're probably expecting you to sound like this. What they're probably not expecting is the type of momentum that could be had from intelligent people looking at problems and actually thinking, oh, I actually can solve this. So you think Miles is a clown? Well, get in a position of power with cash at his disposal, and let's put him the proposal to send stuff down the Channel Tunnel, nuke it, and say to the French, well, it's your problem unless we save the place again. It's cheap, it's bold, I mean, you could do it fairly easily, it's eye-catching policy, I'm sure he'd love it. I'm sure there are conversations in terms of infrastructure we could do once the link is severed, but it's something of a negotiating tactic, isn't it? So I mean, if the relationship is breaking down, we're paying you to solve our security, we're paying you money, and you're not doing it, well, we'll have our money back or we'll blow it up. If the workmen ain't doing the job, we'll have our toys back, thank you. Bang, and there it goes. Again, if you want the Irish to blow things up, we'll do it all day. Just that we do it all things by the legal process now. We sort of sit here and suggest that we blow things up, or stab people, or shoot them, or cut their heads off, and someone in the legal process at the end of the inference chain picks up the recording and goes, yeah, all right, I see, yes, treason, 2023, X, Y, Z. Yes, James, you can cut his head off because we've had the referendum, the crowd cheers and everyone's happy. But you've got to get people to the state where you explain the postmodernist condition, realise that the currency in the modern world is actual authenticity. The only way you get that is will and representation, and the only way you can get representation is via the law. And the only way you can get the law to move, so you pull on the lever in a non-Starmer-like fashion and it moves, is when the police show up and people get viewed under caution and justice is done. So, for the benefit of the recording, again, I've got a couple of texts there, I haven't checked them, so I apologise if the two texts are police, but 7:10, I've been thinking, again, all through the inference today, we've been hard at work. Again, not got a police officer in front of me, so same again, give it to midday tomorrow. There's no point in giving these people ultimatums, but just for your own benefit, if you are listening to this kind of stuff, 101 please, in Birmingham, we'd like to speak with Deborah Agentieri, and should be an interview under caution. regarding various matters. We're talking about obviously severe financial irregularities, just sort of general terms. Cash is obviously a fairly easy thing to prove in legal stuff. We are the money people, but there's all sorts of ethical compliance people concerns with the local authority. There's been an industrial accident. A number of my colleagues have been dumped off by crooks and charlatans. We've got all kinds of entries and problems. So policing will get the chain in for NHS staff, will bust some of their people, go after Varney, that kind of stuff. And we'll turn it around. So give it till next year, and once people start going to prison in a non-Solzhenitsyn-like, non-Stalin-like fashion, in more sort of Lindsay-like fashion for actual serious corruption or fraud, then we'll see how things go. So again, the good bit about this, and the good thing about the ethical considerations is, by your fruits ye shall know him, and the weeds growing together is the correct biblical inference, I think. If you burn things down, then sow sort of better things and see what grows. Maybe the place will be improved by people who are obviously criminals being removed, people who obviously aren't criminals and are competent being left behind to run the departments properly, not sort of suck off printed government debased currency, so they can be sort of power brokers effectively for a disgraced and corrupt political project that various crooks tried to bring in 2020, and now huffing the fumes of as it falls apart around them. With Deborah Regentieri as the sort of sun and steel woman. If you want sort of sadomasochistic adventures, I mean, the woman I'm sure is very, very interested in that kind of stuff. Sun and steel, as I bet on her bedtime table reading at night as she ponders the idea that the guy she attacked may actually show up in her face and actually ever speak to her directly. That anyone gives a shit about her deranged antics, the type of pathetic kabuki. Does anything tell anyone for the rest of their life that this little cretin deems the worth of a human life to be less than the piece of plastic she holds in her hands, because she's functioning an imbecile little psychopath. Even I, doing the job I do, couldn't legally do that, can't do it. If I did that, I should be arrested, which is why we didn't do it. We closed the laptop down, booked it out as criminal evidence, still here, said this is an evidence pile, and got out trying to alert police assistance. It ain't down to me any further. The compliant policemen plus solicitors ain't turned up since November till now. I've done everything possible to alert the British state that what's happening in Birmingham was seriously dangerous, as has my transatlantic colleagues, some of my British colleagues. We can't do any more. I'm not doing this for free. And by free, I mean in terms of my time, my effort, my energy, into a city that decides that human life is worth less than the rats. It's become so uncivilised that no reasonable person could expect to receive justice there. So people are leaving for their own safety to anywhere that is not that place. And this is the predictable result of bad decisions and corruption taken by people who just wanted money. Or had some messianic view of the world which is clearly not borne out by reality. So the analysts can pick up pink corn and do their own analysis of Birmingham if they wish to, but given that you're the only one in the department or the organisation capable of being the sort of Carl Chin of political theory 2020 to 2026 in the place, it's entirely possible that if you put your sort of faith in your own capabilities, at some point Cochin may want your explanation in terms of analysing specific database documents when it comes to the analysis of specific entries patterns during the incursions, so the bureaucratic project can be unravelled from its roots and everyone who's involved goes to jail. So right from the start, Hart, Scriven onwards, everyone at Birmingham University, everyone struggle session with people in there, or off to jail, removed from the country, fined, tried, whatever you want to do. So I hope Gold Commander has got his hands on on the levers, and he's yanking as hard as he can. He's moving his arse, pumping his little legs daily. Because if Gilbourne is in front of me quite promptly saying exactly what he's been doing in terms of affecting my finances, my family, everyone around me, my late father, the city, the country as a whole, because this cretinous little moron wanted money and is totally willing to attack people for cash in a totally illegitimate fashion, and he can take whatever inference he likes in terms of legal proceedings. Then you get people like this brought to justice in a way that only the British can ever do. There are no people left on the planet that can get justice for these people as the British can. And you can do that because in terms of legal proceedings, we are basically the Finns. You get someone into a courtroom with the same kind of anger that puts these people in boxes, and you see what happens to them. So your hunting list, if you want to hunt Hegelians, is pretty obvious. Go into the database and pick out the most deranged bullshit you can, then go and look for them. Really, really easy to find. These people have got these wonderful honorifics to tell you how lovely they are. Go and stick a camera in their face, ask them questions. So Justin Varney, Jennifer Southall, Craig Scriven, Dawn Hewins, Chris Naylor, oh God, Richard Jones, Peter Bishop, Tim Saville, Joanna Campbell, I don't know, the list of Birmingham luminaries just goes on. These people who did wonderful things for the city and then fucked off. Go and find them, interview them under caution, and get these sent back for analysis. So you can analyse these people like apes, right? A monkey standing in front of you, look at the monkey, analyse its structure, analyse its eye movements, iris movements, analyse its statements, break it down. If they're lying, off to prison. And we can't find an honest man from November until now.
我天哪，姐不带这样的！哎，我叫声就没人儿，太早了啊！为什么叫没人啊？
So, to finish the thought off then, so yeah, it would be sort of appreciated if you could call 101, just pick up a telephone. It's an archaic bit of technology. You pull it up, there's a keypad on there, you type in 101, press the green button, and a transfer will go through, and you'll speak to a human being, and you ask for police. So you send police down to the Birmingham Civil Justice Centre, and you look for a guy called David Fern, or one of his representatives, and you talk to the representatives and say, can you find David Fern? Right? So you go and find this adult man who runs Birmingham's court service, and you get one of his representatives to go to him and say, because of what the law says, you've got to find a representative who's not hostile to report criminal proceedings in a public body. This is a pretty obvious legal influence, and just see what he says. So you see if a policeman can do that, and it has to be a man. One of the reasons to finish the thought off then actually finally is the reason it has to be a man is Justin Varney. So if you look at some of the stuff he was posting through corporate communications, he was desperate to keep the hysteria on. So we want something, whatever crook bullshit you're trying to pull off. So we want to associate words with whatever I want. So the R word came back in terms of his revolting political projects. So just look at the stuff he was pumping out, and we'll have this for future generations as a creative writing project. Spot where this crook got caught. So pick up this thing, analyse it, yank him out by the scruff of his neck, get an adult man to go and find him, and go and look at the finances. Play Where's the Money with Justin Varney and the NHS. Where did every penny under his control ever go? And the connections with Gilbourne in Birmingham and Chris Naylor and these kind of people. Get the audit trail out, E in the eye, all of it, and we'll tear it out by the roots. Easy. Easy. If you want to play the follow the money game, you're supposed to in Birmingham anyway, because we deal with loan sharks. The thing with loan sharks, they're not really official, so you call them up, and Dave has lent his mate £1,000 and it's whatever interest or whatever story is being told, and because you're an intelligent adult, when you speak to people and realise you're talking about organised crime, then you go to police. So you're thinking about crimes and scams and Ponzi schemes and all this kind of stuff just as a natural part of the world, daily life. You're thinking about predators and scammers because you're dealing with seriously violent men who want to hurt people. You're talking about prisoners in many cases. People who are already in the criminal justice system because you try to find them and speak with prison staff. So if some imbecile is saying, well, our policy is not to call police, we don't care what your policy is, moron. If I'm saying you personally are criminally liable, you're going to prison, aren't you, idiot? So you may want to consider your position when this is coming through a computer screen, some guy sitting on a bench saying, well, if a child thought through the legal inference and thought, well, in a department that involves money and that we've already had thefts from, if people are clearly embezzling money, then they're going to prison. Can we have a further criminal investigation, please, now, as one of their senior compliance officers for 17 years through a global catastrophe? Can I speak to a policeman after setting them on vulnerable people for most of my career, please?